In a world where everyone seems to have a roadmap to their future, Ralph has always felt a sense of unambition in his life despite his attempts to find excitement and purpose. He has been working at the same retirement home for 5 years. As his friend Taylor's wedding draws nearer, Ralph begins to feel more and more uneasy about attending alone. Despite reaching out to women from his past, none are available to be his date for the wedding. He has had several dates with women, but they all end unfavorably. Regardless of his best attempts, he continuously ruins each date. After the initial encounter, the women refuse to see him again, and they do not reply to his messages. He is tired of this and it is affecting his confidence. He hopes to overcome this recurring pattern and meet someone willing to give him a chance. Ralph has an aversion to social gatherings, as he feels most people attend these events primarily to showcase their status and feign happiness. The next day at the writing group, he unveils his book manuscript by the wall of Enzor. It's set in an overcrowded world where women are in charge, and men must pass a rigorous selection process to prove their worth as potential mates to be able to reproduce. Franco and the other members of the group find the storyline hard to comprehend. They all agree that Ralph needs more writing experience to develop the plot and make it a captivating read. Franco especially thinks Ralph is writing about his life story and his inability to hitch a girlfriend. It is the wedding day. Ralph finds himself alone without a date. His flatmate, Maggie, offers to help by suggesting he invite his ex-girlfriend, Lorraine. Ralph, however, refuses her offer. Together, Ralph and Maggie drive to the wedding venue. Once there, Ralph engages in casual conversation with some acquaintances he bumps into, only to later discover that Lorraine is among the guests. The two have a history of dating, but their relationship ended after Lorraine realized Ralph lacked ambition and drive. Lorraine reveals she's now engaged to a man who runs a successful blog. She expresses her surprise to Ralph how he has remained working at the same place for such a long time. She wonders if Ralph has any motivation to seek out career advancement opportunities. While listening to Lorraine talk about her partner's achievements and their thrilling life together, Ralph's mind begins to wander. He becomes overwhelmed with feelings of envy towards Lorraine's newfound happiness. He looks forward to being home alone where no one judges him. Ralph derives a great deal of satisfaction from his job at the retirement home, regardless of others' opinions. He treasures the special relationships he has developed with the senior residents, who equally appreciate their interactions with him. Among the seniors, Ralph shares a close bond with 2 of them, including Mort, an elderly man who has lost his sole family member, his wife. Mort's cheerful and optimistic outlook on life has a significant impact on Ralph's disposition. Back in the comfort of his home, Ralph is surprised by the fact that he is inundated with a multitude of messages from dating websites. Upon perusing his profile, he has come to realize that Mort has manipulated several images of him in diverse characters and subsequently shared them online. This happened when Ralph entrusted his phone to Mort's care. Despite the increased attention on his profile, Ralph is still without a girl to call his own. As a result, Ralph decides to join a speed dating club where he can meet various participants and engage in brief conversations to gauge their compatibility. To assist him in this endeavor, Ralph has equipped himself with a pair of eyeglasses that feature a camera, allowing him to converse directly with 2 elderly gentlemen from a retirement home who provide him with suggested responses. This he did without the knowledge of his dates. As the speed dating event unfolds, Ralph isn't impressed. None of the individuals he has met so far have managed to capture his attention or spark his curiosity. They all seem to have a weird obsession with cats. His aspirations for a meaningful connection and the possibility of kindling a romantic relationship seem to be dwindling with every passing moment. Despite his optimistic outlook, Ralph's endeavors have yet to bear any fruit. As Ralph strolls away from the venue of the speed dating event, a sense of dissatisfaction and disillusionment engulfs him. Under his breath, he murmurs a few curse words, disappointed that the entire experience was a mere waste of his valuable time. As he moves closer to his parked car, his mind is engulfed with the thought of putting the disappointing event behind him and his hope to ever find love. However, his attention is drawn toward a lady who is busy collecting the scattered remains of pastries from the pavement. Intrigued by the sight, Ralph feels a sudden urge to approach the lady and check if she is all right. Upon nearing her, he realizes that the lady is remarkably beautiful. Her hair is packed in a ponytail, and her eyes twinkle with an alluring hint of mischief. Despite his earlier frustration, Ralph feels a sense of attraction toward the lady. He initiates a conversation with her, which he doesn't do often. Quinn has been hired to provide baked pastries for the dating event. However, while closing her car door, the tray containing the pastries slips and shatters on the ground. "I suppose this is not my fortunate day," she laments. Quinn simply wants to return home and retire to a comforting bath. After her last boyfriend dumped her, she has been alone for a while and has not come across anyone who interested her. In the corner of her eye, she notices someone approaching her. As he comes closer, Quinn recognizes him as the man from the wedding she catered to last month. His calm demeanor attracts her. Quinn greets him with a smile and accepts his offer to assist with the mess. As they converse, she proposes buying him a drink in an hour if he was up to it. Ralph is elated when Quinn invites him out for a drink after a long time of not being asked out. However, upon getting to the venue, he discovers that Quinn is already seated at a table with 5 friends, which makes him uneasy. He had thought it would be an unofficial date for them both. If Quinn had informed him she was having her friends also, he would have declined the invitation. Social situations make him feel uneasy, and he detests being the center of attention. Notwithstanding her friends' courteous inquiries about his life, Ralph has a feeling that they're not interested in his responses. As the night goes on, the group downs shot after shot of alcohol, and Ralph becomes increasingly uneasy. He chooses to take his leave. Quinn pays close attention to Ralph, noticing his uneasiness, awkward conversation, shyness, and social discomfort. She believed that taking him along to have fun with her friends would help him relax and make things run more smoothly, but it has the opposite effect, as Ralph withdraws further into his shell. When he informs her he's done for the night, his face is expressionless. She could tell he isn't happy to be her friend. She walks him to the door and says goodnight before going back to her friends. The seniors are setting off on a road trip today, and Chet is filled with eagerness. He craves a change of atmosphere and a whiff of fresh air. Chet is renowned for his charm, and he takes pride in being a womanizer. When Ralph disclosed his intention to participate in speed dating, Chet and Mort gave him guidance on the response to give to his date over the phone. Now Chet is all ears to know how it turned out. He listens attentively as Ralph shares his experiences. Ralph narrated how unimpressed he was with the cat-obsessed participant and how he never seems to attract the right women of his choice. Chet is always straightforward. He encourages Ralph to aspire to greatness rather than settling for average. He feels Ralph should put in as much effort as he put in his dating life into a career. Perhaps things could change if he desired greatness. Pursue a better career and avoid wasting time, he advises Ralph passionately, with the hope of motivating him to achieve his goals. Maggie is surprised that her roommate Ralph hadn't left his room since last night. She understands that Ralph has been dealing with some temporary feelings of sadness with the pressure from everyone, especially from his conversation with Chet last night. Hence, she determines to wake him from his hibernation mood. To boost Ralph's spirits, Maggie recommends a joint record-buying binge. Knowing Ralph's passion for music, she anticipates he won't be able to resist the opportunity to add to his collection. The strategy appears to be successful as Ralph's mood brightens up with the suggestion of shopping with Maggie. He gets up from bed and gears up for a trip to the record stores together. The time shopping brightens Ralph's mood and he's more than grateful to Maggie. Maggie has come to greatly admire Ralph during their time working together. As they continue to develop a friendship, Maggie finds herself increasingly drawn to him. Although she initially thinks that her feelings for Ralph may only be temporary, they persist and intensify with each passing day. Despite her desire to express her emotions, Maggie remains reserved due to Ralph's frequent lamentations about his lack of romantic opportunities. Despite this, Maggie holds on to hope that by demonstrating her affection and attentiveness, Ralph will reciprocate her feelings. The retirement home is currently hosting a Hooper Gala to bring attention to the issue of elderly abuse. Ralph appears disinterested in the event and has failed to acquire a ticket. He's not good with crowded events. Fortunately, Maggie was given an extra ticket from Gladys, an elderly resident, and extended the offer to Ralph. She even purchases a suit for him to wear, making sure he looks presentable. Unfortunately, Maggie cannot join him at the gala. Ralph arrives at the event in the suit gifted by Maggie and converses with Chet. However, his discomfort grows when he spots Quinn. Ralph confides in Chet about his awkward encounter with Quinn during their initial group outing, admitting to feeling embarrassed. Chet advises Ralph to approach Quinn and strike up a conversation. Though Ralph struggles to summon the courage, he walks toward where she was standing. When Ralph finally approaches Quinn, she appears taken aback. After their last meeting and not hearing back from him, she assumes he didn't like her enough. However, upon realizing this isn't the case, she invites him for a swim. As they stroll along together, hand in hand, Quinn stares into his eyes and kisses him. Meanwhile, Maggie believes that Ralph is starting to see her in a romantic light rather than just as a friend. But her perception changes when she arrives later at the event and sees Ralph deeply engrossed in conversation with Quinn. This leaves her feeling disheartened, especially since she has gone out of her way to ensure Ralph looks his best by getting him a suitable suit and a ticket to the event. Maggie had thought that the gala event will provide them with a chance to spend time together in a neutral setting. She knows how Ralph detests large gatherings, but any opportunity to spend time with him outside work or home would give her the opportunity to talk to him more, possibly even share dinner in a more romantic setting. However, despite her efforts to express her feelings to Ralph, he continues to be evasive and distant. Now, she finds herself questioning whether Ralph sees her as more of a sister than a potential romantic. Quinn and Ralph are currently in a relationship and have been for 3 months. Ralph prefers to spend most of his time at Quinn's place. During work today, Chet suggested that Ralph should buy a 3-month anniversary present for his girlfriend that will symbolize his commitment to her. Ralph was taken aback as he was unaware of the importance of relationship milestones and celebrating them. Despite his closeness with Quinn, Ralph has noticed Maggie's growing emotional distance from him. They no longer appear to be as close buddies and flatmates as they were before his relationship. Ralph believes that this could be due to his lack of presence at his apartment. He has observed a certain coldness from Maggie whenever his girlfriend is visiting or spending the night at the apartment they both share. While he may be imagining it, Ralph thinks that it would be best to speak to her first before making any conclusions. He hopes his mind is just overanalyzing the situation. He visits a music store and buys a record he believes Maggie will enjoy. He values the friendship he shares with Maggie, which has grown over time. Maggie has always been supportive and a confidante. Unlike others, she sees potential in him and listens when he vents his frustrations. Despite his strong romantic feelings for her, he has not expressed them, fearing that it could affect their friendship. Upon reaching his home, he finds Maggie preparing an early dinner. She appreciates the present he has brought, which is a gesture of apology for being absent. He decides to inquire about how she feels regarding Quinn's presence and their relationship. Maggie reassures him that she has no issues with Quinn being there, but he notices a tinge of sadness in her eyes. Quinn asks Ralph to move in with her, hoping that it will bring them closer and inspire him to be more proactive about his career. Ralph moves in with Quinn, but he soon becomes exhausted by her constant pressure on him to change his job and aim higher in his career. Her constant criticism makes him feel inadequate and unsatisfied with their relationship. Furthermore, Ralph realizes that he has developed feelings for his flatmate Maggie, and he knows that he has to break up with Quinn. He invites her to dinner and kindly explains that her constant comments about his career are hurtful and unhelpful. He ends things with her and leaves to go tell Maggie how he feels about her. Quinn is hurt, she didn't see this coming, and she thinks she was motivating him to be better. Ralph understands that the relationship with Quinn is lacking the excitement and fulfillment he wants, and he is ready to move on to something more meaningful, hopefully with Maggie. Ralph arrives home. He immediately senses that something is wrong as soon as he sees Maggie. Upon inquiry, Maggie discloses that a staff member from their workplace has notified her about the passing of Chet. The news hits Ralph hard, as Chet was a cherished resident with whom he had formed a deep connection. Ralph had spent numerous hours listening to Chet's stories and sharing moments of laughter with him. The loss of Chet feels like a gaping hole in Ralph's heart. Ralph vividly recalls his previous talk with Chet and the invaluable time they spent. Chet, who he considers both a fatherly figure and a confidante, appears to be in robust health. Despite this, Ralph feels compelled to seek answers to some pressing inquiries on the cause of his sudden demise. The loss of Chet has rattled his mental state to such an extent that he is hesitant to disclose how he feels to Maggie. The following day, Ralph departs for his workplace and comes across Mort, Chet's closest companion, stationed outside smoking. It is through Mort that Ralph learns of Chet's desire to engage in amorous activities with Gladys, a fellow resident, and how he suffered from heart failure due to an overdose of enhancement pills, leading to his untimely demise. This is typical Chet behavior. The upcoming funeral service is scheduled for the following week, and Ralph and Maggie have made arrangements to attend the occasion. Ralph has never attended a funeral before, and he is unsure how to manage his emotions. Maggie is a constant presence by his side, offering him words of encouragement and a shoulder to lean on. The demise of Chet is taking a toll on all residents and staff, as he is quite popular, especially Gladys, who is finding it difficult to come to terms with the loss. The funeral ceremony is to be a small, private gathering, attended only by the elderly members. This is following Chet's wishes. As a touching tribute to Chet, the attendees release a balloon in his honor. When Ralph informs Maggie that he and Quinn have ended their relationship, she is caught off guard. Despite her persistent inquiries regarding the reason behind their split, Ralph declined to state the reasons. Although Maggie never quite took to Quinn, she feels a sense of relief and believes that her romantic feelings for Ralph are sincere. However, Ralph appears to be oblivious to her affections. Since his return, Ralph's demeanor has been gloomy and lackadaisical, with minimal effort put into his tasks. The funeral service affected him, and he is visibly distraught. To alleviate his tension, Maggie proposes a trip to the beach where they can unwind and distress. Maggie and Ralph hang out frequently and things seem to be getting back to normal. They are both getting over Chet's death. They both decide to have a swim and picnic, which Maggie initiates and Ralph happily obliges. They have fun as they swim together, making jests at each other and playing with water. As they settle on land after swimming, they share an intense moment and kiss passionately. The realization of what is happening makes Ralph scared. He knows that having a romantic relationship with Maggie may put an end to the deep bond they have as friends. This realization hits him hard. As they drive back in silence, a lot of things pass through their minds. While Ralph is scared, Maggie is anxious at his sudden change of mood. Upon arriving home, Ralph starts feeling uneasy and avoids eye contact with Maggie. He begins to feel shy in her presence for the first time and stays all day in his room. In a bid to leave the house, he contacts Quinn and expresses remorse for their breakup, confessing that he still has feelings for her, and suggesting they reconcile if she's willing. Quinn, who still loves him, accepts his apology and plans to visit him the following day. Meanwhile, Maggie is perplexed by Ralph's behavior, as he's been avoiding her since their kiss. She acknowledges that they should talk about the incident, knowing that the attraction between them is mutual and not wrong. Unexpectedly, Quinn shows up the next day and Maggie sees her in their kitchen holding a cup of coffee and sharing laughs with Ralph over a joke. Maggie is feeling emotionally devastated and bewildered. In a mere day, Ralph went from expressing his discomfort with Quinn's persistent conversations about his lack of productivity to reconciling with his ex-girlfriend. Maggie is left wondering if the kiss they shared was the reason for this sudden change, or if the thought of being in a relationship with her was so unappealing that he had to seek out his former partner. Despite her attempts to address the situation privately, Ralph is dismissive and vague in his responses. To compound matters, he informs Maggie that he will be moving in with her that very same day, causing her heart to break even more. Ralph and Quinn have recently begun living together and are finally settling into a routine. When they first moved in together, Quinn had suggested that Ralph resigns from his job at a retirement home to allow for more time to pursue better employment prospects. Initially hesitant, Ralph had grown fond of the seniors he worked with and cherished the job. Although thrilled at the prospect of discovering a new job, Ralph still doesn't feel enthusiastic. Ralph recognizes that he did not handle the situation with Maggie appropriately. He failed to have an honest conversation with her about why he was leaving and how he intended to keep their friendship intact, instead getting swept up in the excitement of starting anew with Quinn. Now, he worries that he may have permanently damaged their relationship. Nevertheless, Ralph is committed to making the most of his new living arrangement with Quinn, spending his days searching for employment opportunities and being productive. Maggie decides to move out of their shared apartment, realizing that she is hurt by how Ralph managed their situation. She resolves to focus on moving forward with her life and releasing any remaining feelings she may have for him, recognizing that they were never truly compatible as a couple. Following his application for the ghostwriting role, Ralph receives an interview invitation a few days later. He successfully passes the interview and starts his new job. Although Quinn is proud of his achievement, Ralph still misses his previous workplace and the life he had there. In addition, Ralph is compelled to endure hanging out with Quinn's annoying circle of friends and pretend to be enthusiastic about their chit-chat. This charade is beginning to wear on his patience. Ralph is feeling homesick, so he decides to visit his former place of employment. While he's there, he sees Gladys, a resident and late Chet friend, and decides to catch up with her. During their chat, Gladys discloses something that surprises Ralph, a conversation she had with Chet before his death. Gladys apologizes to Ralph on Chet's behalf, revealing that Chet had been envious of Ralph's life. According to Gladys, Chet feels that Ralph has a better life and that being with Maggie would have been more fulfilling than being with Quinn. Ralph is taken aback by this news. He can't believe that Chet, his supposed friend, would intentionally deceive him. This revelation weighs heavily on Ralph, and he leaves the retirement home feeling sad. He can't help but question Chet's motives and why he felt the need to be dishonest. Maggie is surprised when Ralph proposes for them to catch up for the first time since he left their shared apartment. She decides to meet him in her car to discuss the matter privately. While they talked, Ralph expresses his feelings for Maggie, but she had already moved on from their past relationship because of the way he acted. She feels things cannot go back to how they were before. However, Maggie is satisfied with her current status and looking forward to meeting the perfect man someday. Ralph has been grappling with his feelings toward his girlfriend, Quinn, for a while now. After meeting up with Maggie, he realized he was wrong rushing things up with Quinn. Now he can't seem to find the spark that once existed between them, and he feels unfulfilled in their relationship. He relates how he feels about her and they both decide to part ways. Despite the pain of the breakup and the realization of losing his only genuine friend, Ralph determines that he can't put off his happiness and dreams any longer. He is aware he has been neglecting his aspirations, and he needs to prioritize himself. After breaking up with Quinn and leaving her apartment, Ralph has been pouring his energy into his interests and passions. He tells himself not to listen to anyone else and to focus on what truly makes him happy. As Ralph goes about his tasks, he unexpectedly comes across Lorraine at a florist. They chat and catch up on their lives. While conversing, Lorraine discloses that her engagement is off, and they have parted ways. Several weeks later, Ralph is holding a book signing event at the local library, and Lorraine surprisingly attends. She purchases a copy of his book and requests his signature. Ralph is thrilled to see her and notices her striking appearance. He feels attracted to her. After she leaves, Ralph realizes that he should have asked for her contact details. He rushes out to locate her, but she isn't in sight. As he starts to feel discouraged, he catches sight of her at the next store. He approaches her with a smile. They both knew immediately they would give each other a shot.